Welcome back to The Real Deal, and today we're going behind the scenes with Brocccck Lesnaaar and his VIP treatment in WWE. You know, the guy who can vanish for months, come back, wreck a main event, and then go off hunt in the woods or do some butchering in his business or whatever he does in his time off. But here's the thing. WWE isn't giving this kind of privilege to just anyone. So let's dig into why Brock gets this golden treatment and whether it's justified or just WWE bending over backwards for the Beast Incarnate Brock Lesnar. You hear the name and you think of Suplex City title wins, and let's face it, some pretty short matches. But what's talked less about is the real story behind Brock's deal with WWE. Unlike most superstars, Brock has a contract that's almost unheard of in the wrestling world. This guy isn't doing any house shows. He's barely out there for the weekly broadcast Raw and SmackDown. And yet he's headlining WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, you name it, and WWE fans tune in. But here's the kicker. Brock has all the control because he brings WWE that big pay-per-view money. He's the guaranteed draw, like a rock star who only shows up for the biggest gigs. The Real Deal says it's brilliant if you're Brock, but for the rest of the locker room, it's like a double-edged sword. Guys working day in, day out watch this part-timer swoop in and take main events. Can you imagine how frustrating that must be? And yet, here's WWE practically rolling out the red carpet for him every single time. It's a setup that's as fascinating as it is controversial. Now let's look at the origin of Brock's special treatment. Brock's first run in the early 2000s ended when he walked out to try out his hand at the NFL and later UFC. But when he came back in 2012, he had something few wrestlers ever get: leverage. Brock wasn't just a wrestler anymore. He was a mainstream name. UFC made him a superstar beyond wrestling. So when he returned, WWE knew they had a crossover megastar on their hands, and that's when the special treatment really started. Brock knew he was in demand, and he used that to negotiate a cushy deal where he'd only wrestle a handful of matches a year and still get that big star treatment. But here's what the Real Deal finds so interesting. WWE has never done that to the same extent with anyone else. Even The Rock, who went Hollywood, didn't get that type of in and out privileges like Brock does. So why Brock? Is it because he's got that unpredictability factor? Or is it just WWE trying to keep a real fighter persona around? It's a strategy that's kept people watching, sure, but at what cost to WWE's credibility as a wrestling promotion? Then there's the locker room impact. Imagine you're a full-time WWE wrestler grinding away on the road for 300 plus days a year. And here comes Brock Lesnar waltzing in a few times a year to headline the biggest events. There's bound to be some resentment, right? Yet WWE justifies it by saying Brock is a draw, someone fans want to see, even if he's only there sparingly. And there is some truth to that. Brock's matches, while sometimes short, are always intense. He's a spectacle, and WWE uses him as such. But it sets a strange precedent. One that tells the rest of the roster, hey, you can work your tail off, but this guy's still gonna get the top spot. As the Real Deal, I gotta ask, is that fair to the talent who's there night in and night out? It's a debate that keeps coming up amongst fans and wrestlers alike. Brock's presence sells, 100%, I totally agree. But it's kind of a slap to the face to those guys busting their backs week after week. It's WWE banking on the name recognition over loyalty, and maybe it works financially, but it's tough on the morale. And here's the $1 million question. Has Brock's special treatment hurt WWE in the long run? Sure, they get those big pay-per-view numbers, but what about building new stars? WWE seems stuck in this cycle on relying on part-timers like Brock, and let's face it, sometimes it keeps them from pushing the next generation. For every Brock Lesnar main event, that's one less opportunity for guys like Seth Rollins or Kevin Owens, who, by the way, is the ultimate villain. I love Kevin Owens. But WWE's reliance on Brock might be great for short-term hype. But what about the future? At some point, WWE has to pass the torch. But with Brock's privileged schedule, that handoff keeps getting delayed. So yeah, Brock Lesnar's WWE career is one for the books. A mix of part-time appearances, huge payoffs, and a unique contract that's unheard of in the WWE. The Real Deal gets it. I understand the business logistics behind it. Brock's a unique talent. But is WWE making a long-term mistake by constantly giving him that star treatment? What do you guys think? Is Brock's special deal worth it? Or is it time for WWE to put that energy into building the next big thing? You guys let me know in the comments below, and that is The Real Deal.